The LGBT establishment, for all its talk of inclusivity, was quite happy to exclude people if they don't happen to share its leftist paradigm thinking. If they don't just share in the far left ideology that they all virtue signal about, which includes, condemning Islamophobia, condemning transphobia. But of course the problem with adding extra letters to your disparate groups who are ostensibly called a community, the problem with adding letters is that each one of those letters doesn't share the same belief as the other letter. So lesbians don't have the same ideals as gays don't have the same ideals as trans don't have the same ideals as everyone else, etc. And it's just like, for a start, trans people. What is a trans person? A trans person is supposed to be someone in a transition from one state to another state. So you're either becoming a man from a woman or becoming a woman from a man. You can't be trans. Are you gay? Are you a lesbian? Or are you in a transition between one or the other? You can't be trans. It's not an outcome. But no, that basic bit of science would be transphobic. And so would the actual thing that the lesbians who hijacked the Pride March in London for the first hour, which they're all moaning about and saying, Pride is no place to protest your own community. What? So everyone's supposed to be added to this group that don't get on with each other. Everyone with their own ideals are wanting to attain supremacy in their field, and there's supposed to be somehow equality, is there? Not just a bunch of people out competing each other. That's why we have the situation we have now. We have corporate sponsorship, we have the whole mess of it all, because there's so much money to be made from it. It's just basically using everyone. And when they're finished with that group, they don't care about the individuals within that group. When they finish with that group, they move on to another group. They add another letter. They move on to another cause. And gay people usually like this, but we've been shafted. We've been hung out to dry. Well hung. And for all their talk of inclusivity, there isn't any inclusivity when you're excluding people for their opinions. If they don't happen to share your far left warped view, and you're excluding them, even though they are in your community, then you're not being inclusive, are you? And why can't Peter Tatchell work this out? I thought he understood common sense. I thought he had a brain. If you do have a brain, if you have a conscience, if you understand what's going on, if you understand how it's been hijacked, then you need to abandon the LGBT freak show now. You need to stop going on pride marches. You need to stop worrying about it, because we've already got everything that we're going to get in the West. Gay people have got all the rights that they're going to get in the West. There is no mass epidemics of homophobia like there is in Islamic countries in the West. I don't care if there's the odd homophobic hate crime, and yes, they'll be rising, etc., just like Amsterdam, but if they do, it'll be because of migrant waves. It'll be because of immigration from places like Morocco and Somalia. It won't be because of people. But that epidemic of homophobic hate crime is blown out of all proportion by the LGBT establishment. And they go around saying, more needs to be done. More needs to be done, really. You've got a month of protests with corporations like BP. You've got the police, the fire station, the government, everyone behind you. You've got Sadiq Khan virtue signalling in the street. You've got all this money being donated. You've got Skittles, the company that makes Skittles, changing all their packaging, losing sales, but more needs to be done. You almost forced the UK National Heritage or whatever it was people to wear pride flags, and if they didn't, you would sack them. You would viciously treat people just because they didn't want a virtue signal along with your debauchery. And that's what it is in the end of the day. That's all your goals seem to be. That's all that happens at the streets after the pride marches, after the protest, after the meaning's gone. It just becomes debauchery. And I've got no problem with debauchery, but is that your goal? Is that all you're about? Is that why we fought all these years, decades, adding on other groups to just party in the street, take poppers, fall over in the street and just overdose and keel over and die? Yeah, what a brilliant future we all fought for. Gay rights don't seem to be synonymous with human rights, do they, in that respect? And it's not even gay rights, is it? Because all they're fighting for is LGBTQIXYZPN3 rights. Whatever the hell those letters mean. And all the different genders, 50 different genders, cisgendered, whatever the hell that means. And pansexual, whatever the hell that means. I don't care what these words mean. They're making them up because sexuality is a sliding scale, and because it's a sliding scale, there are many different parts of the scale you can choose from and say, that's what I am, 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 that's where I am, that's where I am. But it is a sliding scale. There are not 50 different genders. We're in the age of anti-science and anti-truth, and nowhere is this pushed more than the far-left activist groups who defy science and the government gives them money. We're in the age where these activist groups have permeated the mainstream media. We're in the age where now when they talk to a politician or whatever like Donald Trump, they just actively scream their head off like all the protesters, like all the lunatics, because they're not newsreaders, they're not news anchors, they're not journalists. These people are just propagandists, these people are just shills. And they've been exposed, and now they need to be removed. It's time to stop being quite as liberal as people like the editor of Spiked or whatever want us to be. We can't allow these people to keep going. We can't allow the media to keep being a propaganda outlet because we see where it leads. We need to take charge of the situation now, and that means, sadly, that means we need to shut them up before they shut us up.